what was kind of the genesis of this idea? Because it has this very classic setup of what if the neighbor's a serial killer, and then it just plays with that in so many ways.
Well, my inspiration to work on this was Rear Window, Hitchcock's Rear Window. I was also inspired a lot by Danny Boyle's Shallow Grave, if you've seen that film.
Yeah.
And I think just because in America we live with this paranoia and suspicious around our neighbors. And so I knew that if I could just sort of create that suspicion around person in a movie and build around that, that's enough to drive a narrative for a story. But I also wanted this movie to be full of twists and turns. So a lot of what you think you expect turns out to not be what you thought it was at all.
No, totally. And there were several moments in this film where, something would happen, something really big and impactful to the script would happen, and I'm just like, where is this going from? Because like every branch I thought the story was going down, it wasn't. So how is it constructing a narrative that really feels like a ride for the viewer because it takes you on some twists and turns here?
It was, to be honest with you, it wasn't easy because of, I always say to people halfway through the movie, it sort of becomes a different film. And I had a lot of, battles with various financiers and producers along the many years I've been trying to get this movie made, where they'd say it turns into a different movie after this happens in the second half. And I would say, and that's exactly the point of it. That's how life is. And in a world like this, where you're populated with characters that are, most of them are psychotic, it's going to be full of those kind of surprises. So, yeah. And whenever I go to movies, particularly thrillers, I want to be surprised. And as a writer, I usually can tell where a movie is going. So I love it when I show up at a movie and I come out of there going, I had no idea that was going to happen. So I really went out of my way to try to make that happen here, where the audience is continually surprised around every corner.
Yeah, totally. And like some of my favorite films have that same type of setup where halfway through it turns into something totally different and it's better for that experience. And well,
Yeah.
you have a really great cast here. I wanted to ask about Dermot Mulroney first. Because he barely speaks. I think he says like one word
He says
in the
one
whole
word.
film.
Yeah.
But he's able to do so much with just his presence. How is it casting somebody that you knew could do that? Because that's a tricky role, and he really nailed it.
I'm glad you asked about that. I've always said that the movie lives or dies by who I cast in that role. And I don't mind telling you some of the actors that have been in that role along the way, because it's a testament to why I went with Dermot, because I needed an actor of that level. I've had everyone from Sir Ben Kingsley, Mark Hamill, Brendan Fraser, all very interested in playing this part. And when it landed at Paramount, Paramount said to me, look, we really want you to think outside the box on this character. And they sent me a list of people. At the time, I was originally still pushing Sir Ben Kingsley. And they said, yeah, but take a look at this list and see if there's anybody that sparks your interest. And I landed on Dermot. I just sort of met his hair is his signature, but I thought, I wonder what he would look like if he lost that hair. And I knew he had the gravitas, the talent to command the screen the way I needed this character to do it. So when I met with him, I asked him, he had this big, thick head of hair. He'd just come off another movie. And I said, if you do this, I want all that hair to come off. And he said, like what? And I pointed to a guy that we could literally see outside the office. It was some guy with a military buzz cut. And I said, if you can do that, then part's yours. And he's like, I'm in. And you're right. He was great because, a character that says one word the whole screen, but he still dominates the whole movie, even after his death. And he was terrific. He's a really terrific actor.
Yeah, he does a great job. And Victoria Justice, her character really kind of helps viewers get really entrenched in the narrative. Can you speak to working with her because she just has a great screen presence.
She's become one of my favorite people on the planet. We've become really good friends, and she is a true talent. I think Vic should be even further along than she is right now. I think she's got to get those right roles. I think I'm hoping this kind of movie helps show people what a range she really has. She also sings in this film. That song that happens halfway through the film in the montage, that's her singing. And she's working on her new stuff now, and I've heard it, and it's great stuff. She's really talented. But again, I wanted somebody like her that felt accessible. She really, in the movie, is the audience. She's sort of the innocent that gets sucked into this world. And so we kind of get sucked into it with her. And because she falls for Alex. And, obviously, what happens to her in the story is tragic. I don't want to give anything away, but she's actually my favorite character in the film, just because of the roller coaster ride that character goes on.
Yeah, because you definitely see like there's an allure to like a danger. And it can be very intoxicating. And we see that in real life. And I like that you get a really good sense of that in the film. So how is it kind of having that as one of the themes? Because you showcase that a lot.
It used to be showcased even more. I had to early cuts of the film were longer, and you got to hear that Victoria's character come from a really conservative background. So I like the idea that this bad boy kind of shows up, and this girl who's sort of been living this conservative life has suddenly got a chance to go, hey, I'm going to get to go sneak into some serial killer's apartment. And I just felt like audiences could identify with that. Because one of the biggest challenges for me as a director and writer on this was to get the audience to buy that they were really going to sneak into this guy's apartment. Because, how many people are going to go to that length to do that? So I had to make sure I had all the elements there and the characters' belief there that we can do this and get away with it, and that the audience believes they can do it.
And you've spent a lot of time in the past as a very successful writer and as a producer. How did all that time, spent on sets and working on films really help this transition as a director?
It helped a lot. I've been absorbing on every film. I absorbed everything I could from every filmmaker. Look, I've been trying to get behind cameras since day one, to be honest with you. But early on, I lucked out early on with Air Bud and launched that franchise. And then after that, I started writing bigger movies. And those were movies that the budgets were so big, they weren't going to let me step in and direct. And then I kept playing around with, okay, maybe I need to go make a short, show people I can do this. And then when this project came around and I realized if I hold on to this one because I can do it for a price, I'm someday going to get this movie made. So this was the one script I didn't give away like all my other ones. Just like I'm going to hold on to this until I can finally make it. And it has been, I think, over 20 years.
Well, I'm so glad you finally got to make it and that all paid off. And you mentioned Air Bud, and you're a legend in my books for that one. I know you've done more celebrated works, but Air Bud's is like so special to my generation. How was it watching it turn into like this behemoth of a franchise with spin-offs to spin-offs? Like it's crazy how many of those were made.
Part of it's amazing to see what it's become. Part of it's painful because I'm not reaping any benefits from it. I, I launched it and wrote the first two, and then after that, they took off and ran with it. And frankly, even they come back to me and said, "We want you to write all 14 of them." What they turned into, with talking dogs, and it became something different. But I am proud that it did launch something so big. Yeah.
Yeah, we see a dog in Depravity. He doesn't get as happy an ending as Air Bud does. I thought maybe that was like a little, it seemed like a betrayal almost to me. I'm like, from the Airbud creator? Come on.
I know. I knew people would say that, and you're never supposed to do what I did to that dog in this movie on screen. You're never supposed to do that. But again, it felt like that kind of film. It belonged.